I don't think so. I mean, I think they'll make the playoffs and all that. I think they'll have some great nights together offensively, but that team is going to be terrible defensively. Because LeBron just can't do it at 40 years old on that end of the floor. I think if he really were to go all out on that end of the floor, chances are he'd probably get hurt at some point.
Could he do it in the playoffs?
Not like, I don't think consistently. And Luka is just a bad defender, arguably the worst on-ball defender in the league. And I don't think they're a good fit. LeBron has gotten better at playing off the ball the last few years, but he still has the ball in his hands a lot. Luka has to have the ball in his hands. If Luka doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's going to stand there at the hash mark and watch. And that's what LeBron used to do in Cleveland when he was earlier in his career. And so I don't think LeBron will be as comfortable playing off the ball like all the time like he will when Luka's out there. I don't think this is a good fit. Now, they're talented enough where they'll win games. Like I said, I think they'll make the playoffs. But no.
So I think you're a little
really bad.
So I agree with the sentiment of a lot of that, but I think you're too far pessimistic. Like right now they're the 5 seed. Like if they were to not make the playoffs, they would have to fall apart. Assuming the reports that Luka's expected back February 8th, you know what I mean? Assuming Luka's going to be back, this team's better.
Better than they were?
Yes.
How?
Because you just added maybe the best offensive player in the sport, and certainly one of the 3 best offensive players in the sport. And I think so again, I agree with you that right now, as presently constituted, they're not real contenders because they are, as presently constituted, a bottom 5 defense. You know what I mean? Like the only teams that are worse than them.
Size.
Right, and they don't have size. Now, I think they are going to add someone. In fact, they almost assuredly have to add. And so there's like the C-level move, which is Nick Claxton. There's the B-level move, which is Clint Capella. And there's, to me, the A-level move, which would either be Walker Kessler or Miles Turner, 2 guys they've been trying to get the last couple years.
Yeah, if they could get a legit big.
Get a legit big. The reason I think you're overstating it or too pessimistic is they are going to be better offensively with Luka Doncic than with Anthony Davis, no matter the fit. They just
really. I mean, it's not just talented players. Like when Kyrie first went to Dallas, they were terrible. Even though you added a great offensive player, because fit is so important.
Right, I agree, but I just think that a 40-year-old basketball savant, LeBron James, will take on the role necessary. One of the things that I think has been unfair is the wrong word, but I don't know what the word is. But when people are like, LeBron, he says he's going to change, but then it's always, ball in his hands. The Lakers haven't had a guy that's better with the ball in his hands too. D'Angelo Russell, God love him, you can't trust him in big spots with the ball in his hands. That Russell Westbrook was not the guy to have the ball in his hands. Austin Rivers is the first guy who it's like, this kind of works, and LeBron's let him do it. Now, LeBron still controls it in the biggest spots, but Luka's Luka.
Yeah. So I think, it's an interesting aspect of this conversation in terms of like what can LeBron and Luka do. And the reality is like, you can put more weight offensively on Luka's shoulders, and you can expect him to kind of really get after it in the playoffs, because that's what we've consistently seen him do, and he definitely has more of that, killer instinct, so to speak, than when compared to an AD. But the reality is like, look no further than LeBron in the Olympics. He was gassed, man. He was hanging on by a thread. There was moments when you would have thought that LeBron James could have taken over more, but he was really just doing everything he could. And again, LeBron stepped up in the Olympics, but in the playoffs, like, we know the way how this schedule gets all condensed, you're playing more games. Like, to expect that LeBron is going to be able to be a true workhorse in the playoffs is just way too optimistic. So now a lot of this is going to fall on Luka. And if it falls onto Luka, then you're kind of like, okay, well, what else does this mean offensively for this team? How does LeBron and Luka work off one another? Like, that's going to be the interesting question. Not to mention, of course, defensively. They've gotten worse now defensively. They're already bad, and now they technically have gotten worse defensively. Now, are they going to make other moves? Who really knows? But if you're just going to answer the question right now, LeBron and Luka make LA title contenders. No. Will they be dangerous? Will they be a difficult team to face? Will they be a better team when when they're down by 1 and a minute 30 to go in the fourth? Will they be a better team? Yes. Undeniably, yes. Because you'll have Luka have the ball, and then again, like that will be a great 1-2 punch. And you can make the argument that that was what you needed against, say, the Denver Nuggets. But again, it's hard just to kind of, add and subtract, because if you're adding Luka, you're going to get more offensive production, but then you're taking away the defense. Like, it's a tricky situation, because we also know that AD would like randomly disappear for entire halves. And like I said, I'm expecting that LeBron James, I'm not saying a lot, I'm not saying he's fallen off a cliff, but let's say he was at a 90% in the playoffs last year. I imagine this year he will be 85, 87, 88. Whatever it is, will be a little bit less. Again, I'm not acting like he's going to get to the playoffs and just fall apart. I'm not saying, LeBron James is done, he's cooked. Like, I'm not saying any of that. But it's just very obvious that once you hit the playoffs, that's when LeBron James's age shows more than it does. It's just a lot of basketball, and it's a lot of basketball in a small window, especially if you're going 6-7 games on the road, etc. We saw that last year. We saw it in the Olympics. We saw it the year before. It's a real thing. That is when LeBron's age, from my viewpoint, shows more than anything, and that's totally understandable. So again, it's just kind of like, do I think this team overall has improved? Yes, and you can see even the odds, have gone up. So this team is definitely better, also just from, again, a ruthlessness, a more kind of like gotta get after it mentality that I think that the Lakers were really lacking. Because right, if you're relying on D'Angelo Russell to get that job done, or AR, it's kind of like, oh, okay, best of luck there. And LeBron no longer has that in him. He just can't. He can do it for, random stretches or even an entire game. But then it's just like, he notoriously would play great one game and the next game just not have it all in the tank, because he just can't recover anymore. What makes LeBron so special, especially throughout his career, was his ability to recover like that. The guy could just ball. He could play for like 2 hours, straight, and then like the next day just be like fully recovered and just be like, I'm good to go. It was like I never played. As you get older, that recovery deficit just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's why we've seen him now have amazing games, followed by not so much, because his body just can't recover at that rate. So that's the lens that I encourage you guys to look at it through. Like, what does this mean from a playoff perspective? What does that look like? I think Luka was always more about the long term. First of all, it was just a great opportunity. And if you have the opportunity to do it, I guess, you do it. But I think they're looking at it more from a long term perspective rather than, okay, we got Luka for LeBron, now we're legit contenders. I don't know if that's necessarily the intention. But right, this whole idea, they always do this every single season. Anytime we get a collection of new players playing together, they're always like, well, will it work? How will they make it work? I don't know. The fit matters. And then they always find a way. They said this about KD. They said this about LeBron and AD. They said this about Kyrie and Luka. They say this every single season, that we bring in a new cast of characters together, and they're always like, how are they going to make this work? They find a way, man. They find a way. Luka and LeBron will find a way. I think you're going to get a different version of Luka. I think you're still going to get a lot of the same old Luka, but I do think at least initially you're going to get like some extra fire under your belt. He's going to want to really kind of prove a lot of people wrong. I feel like he's going to be extra motivated and inspired and ready to go. And it's going to be interesting. Do I think that LeBron's going to have this major impact on Luka? I'm not so sure. I really don't. Maybe if they both had similar backgrounds, they didn't come from two completely different countries, and, one wasn't nearly double his age, I think maybe, but I just think they're just come from two completely different worlds. Will Luka soak up some of what LeBron James can offer? I'm sure a little bit, but not as much as, a real fan would want to happen, because I just think culturally they just come from two completely different backgrounds. They've had two completely different NBA experiences. They just live different lives. They want different things. They have different work ethics, and this idea that LeBron will just be able to just like bestow all his wisdom, his work ethic, his routines, and all of this on Luka, and then there you go. Plus, I don't even know if LeBron wants that. Honestly, seriously, I don't know if LeBron's willing to be able to be like, "Come on, man, I got you. Let me show you how it's done, son." Like, I don't know if LeBron's gonna want to do that. I really, because if he does do that, then Luka could become dominant, like, I don't know. Not to mention, let's say Luka, because now you also got to think about it from LeBron's perspective, from just even like a legacy. If LeBron won another championship with AD, people would still give a ton of credit to LeBron. A ton of credit. If he wins a ring now with Luka, averaging like 30, more than 30 points a game in the playoffs, having like 40-point, 50-point performances, like, it's clearly Luka. And LeBron James, like, isn't even, Scottie Pippen. Like, he's, I don't even know. Like, he's just, kind of just a guy. Like, people aren't necessarily going to be like, okay, LeBron's got 5 rings now. He's got 6 rings. Like, they kind of use it in a lot of ways. Like, it's almost would be, like, used against him in a weird way. And believe me, LeBron thinks about all this type of stuff. He does. He knows when he wins that ring with AD, like, he is getting a massive, massive, massive amount of credit. He wins another ring or 2 with Luka. I'm not so sure people are like, oh yeah, man, look at him. He's got the same number of rings as MJ. Like, I'm just not so sure. And he's aware of all that. So, I wonder how much work he's going to put into this relationship as well. I don't know. I know they claim that he didn't know. Find that hard to believe, especially considering Rich Paul and all this type of stuff. So I don't know, but I do know that it's exciting. It's encouraging. It's something different for LA, and I do think it brings a lot of juice to the franchise. So I'm definitely more interested in watching this team. Like, that's for sure. At this point, LeBron and AD didn't move the needle much, but like now watching LeBron and Luka, that's like, all right, the heck is this going to look like? And so, just from an entertainment perspective, it's kind of box office. So it's a victory there for sure. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about LeBron and Luka? Do you think that they are now, do you think like the Lakers are now title contenders? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.